So for this assignment, I'm going to be introducing to your very first Premiere assignment. I'm going to show you how to download the files and edit them, and you're going to be making a short little video using the stuff I've provided. So first of all, you need Premiere on your taskbar if you haven't already. Make sure that it's pinned. You're going to be using Premiere a lot this year, so you'll definitely want to make sure that you've got that pinned down there. And then we're going to be, you can go ahead and fire that up if you want, and it should look something like this. We're going to leave that alone for a second, and we're going to go ahead and download the files you'll be using to edit. It'll give you this warning, and you're going to have to say download anyway. So when you set up your computer, it should have given you the option of, or it should have led you through setting up so it'll choose where you download things. This is important because you're going to be downloading a lot of video files, a lot of audio files. You need to know where they go. You need to be able to keep track of stuff. So I want you to, instead of putting this in the downloads folder, I want you to go and we're going to make a new folder. You can make a new folder by clicking New, Folder, and we're going to make it one called Tutorials like I have here. And then we're going to save that zip file in your folder. If you do not see the word zip, we're going to change that and address that in a second. So that'll take a little bit of time to do. And I'm going to go look at that file real quick. So on my desktop, in Tutorials, I have this zip file. If you don't see any of these, they're called file extensions, we're going to make sure you turn that on. Go to View, go to Show, and make sure file name extensions are clicked there. So that is a zip file. If you don't see it like I do, I'm on large icons. Zip files are locked up. You can't do anything with them until they're unlocked. Like if you try to drag that into Premiere, it's not going to work. So we're going to extract. It's going to ask us, where do we want to extract them? I want to put them in the tutorials folder, in their old folder, and I'm going to unclick the one. If this is clicked, you don't need to see the files when they're done extracting. So that'll take a second. And now I've got a folder called Intro to PP, Landry Run, and inside that is my video parts. So you're going to have a total of 8 videos and 1 audio file. So for this first few assignments, I'm just wanting you to kind of follow the directions that I'm providing. You'll have plenty of time to be creative in the future and make it your own. But right now, I just want you to do the basics and understand how to do stuff. So we're going to start a new project. I'm going to go ahead and call this Intro. You could say Intro to PP or Landry Run if you want. For location, I want you to put that in the folder that you just made on your desktop. Desktop, Tutorials. And then you go Intro to PP. There's your folder. And we're going to skip import mode because we do not need to import files. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. We're going to create. So I have a different screen set up here. Let me get mine looking like yours probably does. So when you open up Premiere for the first time, it probably looks a little like this. You have this tutorial bar on the side, and you've got a bunch of other stuff over here. We're not going to use any of the tutorials that they provide. I've got my own. So what I want you to do is come over here to this little button. This is the Workspaces button. I want you to show Workspace tabs, and you will see there's a whole bunch of different modes. If you don't see all of them, just drag it out like I have here. And instead of being in learning mode, I want you to switch over to editing mode. That's going to be our basic mode. If yours doesn't look like this, you can always go back to Workspaces and reset, and it should look basically like this. So if you've ever done any editing before, this probably doesn't look too unfamiliar. You've got your project files right here. This is where you're going to get all your stuff. You got your timeline right here, and you got the source window right here. So I want you to drag in your stuff. We're going to import media. Okay, so you need to bring in your files. You can either click and drag those like I did, or you can just start with one, hold Shift, the Shift key, and then move your arrows around, and that'll help you select all of them at once. You can also just drag them in. There's lots of different ways to do this. So here in Premiere, you've got a lot of different ways of looking at things. You can look at the thumbnail mode, and this will let you like scrub through, is what it's called, the different parts of the video, or you can just look at the list. If you want to double click, it'll bring up a clip, and this is called the source monitor, and in the source monitor you can scroll through the whole clip and see what it looks like. So to start building, we need to make a timeline. We don't have a timeline yet. So I'm gonna go New, Sequence, and click, I want the 1080p, which is our resolution, and our frame rate is, I'll just say 24 frames per second. It's almost 24. Okay, so now you've got a sequence in here. You've got V tracks and A tracks, video and audio. You can actually have up to 99 different tracks of each of these if you wanted it. But right now, we don't need much more than a couple. So we're gonna bring in our first track, our first piece. If you see a little warning sign here that says, hey, this doesn't match, you just say, go ahead and keep existing settings. We wanna keep the settings and not change them. So in this video, we got Landry here. He's running to go ask his girlfriend to prom. So this is something we filmed for the Student News a few years ago. So if you scroll down the clip, you see that he eventually turns around and looks toward the camera. So that kind of ruins the effect of him running. So I'm gonna shorten this clip. So I wanna shorten it to about 17 seconds. You can change that, it's not like super locked in either way. But when you click and drag, it should just shorten your clip. That's pretty easy. You have all this sound of him running, and I'm gonna show you how to get rid of that. We're gonna pick our clip, and right now when we pick our clip, it's both the video and audio. I wanna unlink them. So if I right click and unlink, now it's picking one or the other. So I wanna get rid of my audio right about the time he starts running, because it's just gonna be noisy, windy stuff. So now I've got video but no audio. We're gonna put some audio back there later on, but that's the basics of it. So I want you to go ahead and add the rest of the clips. As you add each clip, it will have the sound there, but we're gonna delete that later. You'll notice that there are little handles, these little triangles. So that shows me that's the end of the clip. So when you're editing, usually you're gonna need more than just you're gonna only use part of the clip. You generally don't use the whole clip. So in this one's pretty short, I'll use the whole clip there. But for this one, for example, where he's going up on the bench, I've got this whole part where it's just blank screen. So I'm gonna delete that. Now if I just drag here right there, it's deleted it, but now I've got this blank space here. What am I gonna do about that? So I can either delete the blank space, like that, or I can Control Z undoes whatever you just did, and I'm gonna try something called the ripple tool. So the ripple tool will take your clip and it'll move it over for you, so you don't have to do two things at once. Shortcut for that is B, and our main tool, the selection tool, is V. So it's very helpful to learn some of those shortcuts. I'll make a shortcut poster for you, but the main thing is I want you to shorten these clips so that you get it to be underneath a minute when they're all done. So I'm gonna go ahead and add all my clips and make sure that it's under a minute. You can check your time right here. I'm just adding the whole clips for now, but I want you to think about how you're gonna take stuff out. There we go, that's all my clips. And you can see I'm 5 seconds over. So I'm gonna have to pick and choose where I want to delete some parts. So like he's not showing up there, I could delete that. This is kind of a long clip, we can delete that. And I'm almost there, almost under a minute. I'm at a minute exactly here. Let me take a little bit out of this clip. Okay, so I've used my ripple tool to kind of get a lot less of it in there. So he's gonna walk down here, he slows running, and he says, here goes nothing, and then he turns around at the end again, so I wanna delete that. I'm gonna delete the very end of the clip. So it actually ended up being like 58 seconds. Okay, so I've got most of my work done for me. I got a few more things I want you to do though. I want you to bring in some music. So I provided the music for you. It's an MP3 file. We're gonna drag that in. Okay, and I want it to start when he starts running, and I want it to end when he stops running. Okay, so I just dragged the end of that, so it's gonna stop right there. Now I've still got all that sound of him and the wind and all that stuff. I'm gonna delete that by just dragging it up. So now all of that sound is gone. If I pull it away, it's still gone. So you can just overwrite it pretty quickly just by doing that. So now I've just got the sound of him talking, the music, and then the sound of him at the very end. That's all I want you to keep. You can also bring the music down a little bit. It doesn't need to be that loud, but that's not that important right now. Okay, so very last thing I want you to do, we're under a minute. We got our audio going. I want you, for the very beginning of the clip, we're gonna choose a font, and I'm writing your name. I know you're smart and you won't do this, but we're gonna actually not just write the words your name, you're gonna need to write your actual name. So there you go. If you have the Properties tab open, you can change it right there. If you don't see that, you can also go to Effect Controls over here, and you'll see the choices right there. I want you to select your text, and we're gonna pick a font, and I want you to use Comic Sans. Comic Sans is a ridiculous font used primarily by kindergarten teachers, and I want you to make it pink. So there's your text, and appearance, I want you to change the fill, and we're gonna make it pink. There we go. Okay, so at the beginning, for the first 5 seconds or so, you will have your name there, and then we're gonna also add it at the very end, and I wanna put "to be continued." All right, this time I want you to pick a different color and a different font. So you can decide whatever font you want. I'm gonna go with that one, and I'm gonna go to red this time. There's lots of other things you could do with this, but I just want you to know the basics. You can add a stroke to the outside of it, you can add a shadow. I want you to align it in the center of the page. So if you will shrink down that text box, you can go down to align over here, and there you go. So, and let's make sure that goes over the end of the video. So it ends with him saying, "Here goes nothing," and "to be continued" at the very end. And that's it. So there's your first editing experience. How do you turn it in? To turn in your work, you need to export. So you got a couple of ways to do that. I'm gonna go to export here. And I've already got this set up, but I want you to set it up now. I have right next to my tutorials folder, I have an exports folder. And I want you to go to that exports folder, and I'll just save over the one I already made, Intro to PP. So Intro to PP will be in your exports folder when you're done. We're gonna hit save, and I'll replace my old one. I want you to make sure that you got the whole thing exported. If you, for some reason, don't, make sure you're on entire source here. If you don't have all minute or so of your project, and then click the blue export button. Now, while we wait for that to finish, let's go back to our assignment, and you've got to turn it in. So I am going to scroll down to the bottom. I already attempted this once, so I'm gonna do it again, but I'm gonna submit assignment, and that'll give me these choices. I need to upload media, and when I drag a file, remember it'll be on your exports folder. If you wanna put your exports folder over here, that's a good idea. Exports folder we'll be using a lot. So there's your file, Intro to PP. That's the finished version. Open and submit. And got to make sure you submit assignment here too. So you have to hit submit twice. Just make sure that you do that. A lot of times folks forget to do that. So I'm going to hit submit one more time, and then I should have the confetti, and you're done.